Welcome in. It is What's Right with Nick Wright, the podcast and YouTube show. It is episode 69. It is our week 2 NFL gambling show. Before we get into what we did in week 1, little parameters if you're new to it, if you didn't listen to week 1. We don't necessarily break down, but we at least touch on all 16 games. We put them into 4 different categories. Stay away. We'll explain that when we get there. Be careful. We'll explain that. Perfectly priced. That's self-explanatory. And then the 4th category is our picks. We do 5 picks every week. We give you one. One of those will be our lock of the week. We'll also give you a survivor pick at the end of the show. And we will keep track of how we're doing throughout the year. And my commitment to you is I will bet these games that I tell you myself each and every week. So last week started off terribly. This show came out on Friday. I talked all about why I thought the Rams shouldn't be 2.5-point underdogs. They ended up losing by 21 points. The rest of the weekend, though, I'm proud of how we did, even though we only went 2-2 the rest of the weekend, which is 2-3 overall. So why am I happy with it? Carolina, when we did the show, was -1.5. By kickoff, they were +1.5. So the line had moved against us, but in the direction that we were thinking on the bet. Carolina ends up losing at the gun on a 58-yard field goal. I don't think we were on the wrong side of that bet. Jacksonville, I know we weren't on the wrong side of that bet. They dropped 2 touchdown passes. Despite all that, they had a lead. We had them catching 2.5 points. They had a lead, a 2-point lead, by the way, with a minute remaining, minute and a half remaining, and they let Carson Wentz drive the length of the field for a touchdown 2-point conversion. If they'd have just held him to a field goal, we cover that one. So, and then obviously Miami covered by 1 million, Baltimore covered by 1 million. So we were 2-3, but in my opinion, we were only truly off, way off on one game. We got a little unlucky on the Jags game. Even if the Carolina-Cleveland, I don't think we got unlucky, but I don't think we're on the wrong side of it. So I'm happy with it. 2-3 is not great, but it's obviously not a disaster. And I'm fine with how we did. We can deal with 2 and 3 weeks. What we can't deal with is 1 and 4 weeks, and we certainly can't deal with 0 and 5 weeks. So the 5 games we'll be picking today are the following. I'm not going to tell you which side of these yet, but the 5 games we're picking is Miami at Baltimore, Cincinnati at Dallas, Arizona at the Raiders, Chicago at Green Bay, and Minnesota at Philly. Those will be our 5 picks. So what about the other 11 games? They're in 3 different categories. We start with the stayaways, and I give you a little analysis on the games and why they are where they are. Damonza, what's the first stayaway?
First stayaway is Browns, favored by 6 points at home against the Jets.
Okay. There's 2 games in this category that are stayaways for multiple reasons. The first of which being, you don't want to watch this game. This is you wait all year when we start the clock for Sunday football. Unless you have a huge lean on a game as awful as Joe Flacco against Jacoby Brissett, I have no idea why you would ever want to bet, why you'd want to watch this game. Now, gambling-wise, that's not sound. Gambling-wise, you don't not bet something because you don't want to watch it. But for tiebreakers, I'm fine with it. So now also, why is this a stay away? Well, I said last week that we were going to bet against Joe Flacco every game the rest of his career, okay? But in order to do that, I have to lay 6 points with Jacoby Brissett. I have to lay 6 points with Jacoby Brissett. Not interested. So because I'm certainly not backing Flacco. I'm certainly not laying nearly a touchdown with Jacoby Brissett. Flatly stay away. All right, what's the next one?
The next one is Detroit favored by 1.5 at home against Washington.
Okay, so the first reason this is in the stay away category is the same reason Jets-Cleveland is. You don't want to watch this awful football game. The second reason this is in the stay away category is I don't really know what I was seeing week 1 with either team. Okay. So we know what Carson Wentz is. He's going to make the occasional great play like he did in week 1 and make the occasional disastrous play like he did a couple times in week 1. We know that. But is Washington better than I expected? Or are the Jaguars worse than I thought they'd be? Or was it just kind of week one, new coach in Jacksonville, some bad luck? I don't know. Detroit, on the other hand, is their defense that awful? But on the flip side, is their offense that potent? Is their offensive line that good? Or is Philly's D-line a little overrated? I just don't know. I just feel like there are so many unknowns here. Plus, it's a gross game. I don't want to watch it. We're staying away from it. Next one.
Needs more data. The Niners favored by 9.5 at home against Seattle.
Okay. So the Niners favored by 9.5.
It's your Super Bowl team.
It's my Super Bowl team. I believe they're going to get it right. Week one, it was in a monsoon. So a lot of stuff happening. I am certainly not going to back Seattle coming on a short week, on the road, coming off that emotional win. However, as high as I am on San Francisco, I am not ready to lay 2 scores on Trey Lance. I think he's going to be very good by the end of the year, but I'm not going to lay 9.5 points on a guy who now was in a monsoon. They didn't have Kittle. I understand all of that. But in his one NFL start, they scored 10 points. I'm not going to lay 9.5. I'm also not going to back Seattle, who might be as bad as people thought they were going to be. They were not. They scored 0 points second half, and people are maybe slightly now overrating them a bit because they're overrating the Broncos. Like, they're bad. So to me, that is a vintage stay away game. If I had to bet a side, I'd bet the Niners, but I don't want to lay 9.5 points with Trey Lance making his 5th start in the last 3 years. I'm not saying he's not that good. It's just too many points, and I don't want to back. Usually if it's too many points, it means take the underdog. I don't want to back Seattle. It's a stay away. You've got to have discipline, Damonza. We got to find the games we're staying away from so we can find the games we want to bet. It's not complicated. Next.
All right. The Giants favored by 2 at home against the Panthers.
Here's the deal on that. My initial inclination was this was one of my picks. I had Carolina +2 as one of my picks. And then the little, one final review. I'm like, Nick, how much of this is you hoping your takes are right? Because that's a problem with me gambling sometimes. Sometimes I bet my takes. I bet with what I want to happen because it makes my life easier on television rather than cogent analysis. And while Carolina looked good in the fourth quarter and Baker looked good in the fourth quarter, they looked horrifyingly bad on offense the first 3 quarters. I don't think the Giants are very good. I think the Giants looked as bad offensively in the first half as Carolina did. And in a situation like this, 2 bad teams, I think Baker's better than Daniel Jones. You usually would just say take the points. But it's not a lot of points. It's less than a field goal. I don't trust the Giants. I want to trust the Panthers. But I'm not going to allow this. I'm not going to allow that in the first 2 weeks of the season, 2 of my 10 picks are on Baker Mayfield and the Carolina Panthers. They haven't earned that yet. So it was initially Carolina +2 was the bet, and now it's a stay away. All right, what's the last one in the category?
Last one is Indy 3.5 point road favorites against the Jags.
Okay. So I know what a lot of people are thinking. Nick, you like the Jags.
Yeah.
Picked them to make the playoffs. Go ahead. Go ahead.
You need them to pull out 7 wins this season.
Yeah, I bet the over them.
They threw away a really easy game in week 1. So, no love for your Jags at home.
Okay. And they play Indy well. They knocked Indy out of the playoffs last year in the final week of the season.
Yeah.
They are catching points at home. And while I am high on the Jags, I'm also very high on the Colts, if you remember.
Yeah.
And the Colts played terribly for 3 quarters, rallied, and then in overtime ended up getting a tie. They rallied in the fourth quarter, didn't play well in overtime. I feel if I was going to take a side in this game, I would take the Jags. But it's a stay away for me for the same reason that the Panthers are. Am I going to, the first 2 weeks of the season, each week use one of my 5 precious picks on a Jacksonville Jaguars team that has not earned the level of faith that that I want to have in them? The answer is no. And so I think the smart side is Jacksonville plus 3.5. I think that is the smart side. But do I think it's in play that Jonathan Taylor runs roughshod all over them?
Sure.
Absolutely. And so do I also think that it's in play that Indy is actually oddly the more desperate team, even though they got a tie in week 1 and Jacksonville had a close loss, because Indy has real, not only playoffs, but maybe, division championship aspirations the Jags probably don't have? I do. So my lean is Jacksonville plus 3.5. It is not strong enough given that they bit me last week, even though they should have covered that game, should have won that game outright. That sucked. I'm staying away from it. All right, there's the full stayaways. Now we're to the be carefuls. What's first?
Be careful. We got the Steelers are 2-point home underdogs to the Patriots.
Okay. This is a vintage be careful. And let me tell you why this is a vintage be careful. I'm going to read from our What's Right group chat yesterday or in the evening. Okay. What we
Mac
have.
Jones a road favorite.
Okay. So yeah, Mac Jones a road favorite. You said that. I also got this from, let me find it real quick, from your guy Vic. How the bleep are the Steelers underdogs at home to the Patriots? Matt then chimed in, injured Mac Jones. Vic then again, they could play the Patriots offense with 10 men on the field and I'd still pick them to win. This is why we created the be careful category. No disrespect to Victor. No disrespect to Matt. They're not what I would call sharp bettors. And the whole football world saw how awful New England looked in week 1. They saw Pittsburgh beat Cincinnati in week 1. And they're like, Pittsburgh's at home and they're getting points? Oh my God, Vegas has made a mistake. Oh my goodness gracious. How could this happen? And then I'll tell you what's going to happen. It's going to be Sunday around 3:30 p.m. Eastern. And Mitch Trubisky is going to have had 2 turnovers and be trailing 6 points midway through the 4th quarter. And Matt and Vic are going to be saying, I'm down a touchdown and I think I'm drawing dead here. I don't think I have put all my faith in Mitch Trubisky, a Steelers team that forced 5 Joe Burrow turnovers and still needed a blocked extra point, a bad snap, and a missed 30-yard field goal to win with their own 50-yard field goal at the gun. They needed 5 turnovers, a blocked extra point, a missed field goal to escape in the final play of overtime. Also a Steelers team that while the Patriots got their ass kicked on Sunday, at least that game didn't go 5 quarters. The Steelers game went 5 quarters. So you might be saying, Nick, with all this, why are you not including the Patriots in your picks? Because I'll be damned if I'm betting Mac Jones as a road favorite. I'm not doing that either. I'm just telling you guys, be careful out there, kids. Be careful. All right, next.
That made a lot of sense. Denver is 10-point favorites at home against the Texans.
All right. I challenge you to find one person in America that's betting the Texans. I challenge you. And that's to be careful. If everyone in the world is going to be on Denver, which they will, because, they have to win. It's a bounce back. They're going to be in all these teasers. Be careful. Nobody likes the Texans. The Texans melted down. They also played a 5-quarter game. They're going to say, Russ has something to prove and all that. And he very well might do it. Be careful doesn't mean necessarily that I have a strong inclination on one side of the bet. It simply means I know that the gambling public loves Denver. And if the gambling public loves it, I'm skeptical of it. Do I think Denver probably kicks the Texans' ass? I do. But be careful out there, kids. No one's betting the Texans this week. It's always a dangerous spot. When you're getting ready for Sunday football, you put your bets in, you're scrolling Twitter, and you see Chad Millman tweet, 88% of the Action Network's handle is on Denver -10. You're like, oh boy, I'm in that 88%. All right, next.
Buffalo is 10-point home favorites against the Titans.
Every single thing I just said about Houston, Denver applies to Tennessee, Buffalo. Everyone's on the Bills. Every single person thinks the Bills are a juggernaut. The Titans embarrassed themselves this week. It's at home. The Bills have an extra 4 days of rest. It's on Monday, so they basically have almost a full bye week between games. All of these reasons, again, I'm not saying they're not going to blow them out. What I am saying is no one is betting Tennessee. And the only people who are betting Tennessee are the sharps. Now, I'm not good enough to bet the Titans even getting 10 points against Buffalo after how Buffalo looked on Thursday. But be careful, folks. There are 3 games that Vegas knows the public is going to not have even action on. Buffalo -10, Denver -10, and Pittsburgh +2. Be careful. All right, now to the perfectly priced.
Perfectly priced. Chiefs are 4-point favorites at home against the Chargers.
All right, this game will have already happened by the time you see this show. I think that's just right. You might say, Nick, you think the Chargers
perfectly
are almost
priced?
Yeah. What's your problem?
Chiefs at 4-point favorites is perfectly priced.
Yeah.
So if they were 6-point favorites, you would have taken the Chargers. Your beloved Chiefs.
Well, I don't bet against the Chiefs.
Okay.
It's a flaw in my gambling. I don't bet against the Chiefs.
Okay.
But it doesn't mean I always bet on them. The Chiefs at -6, I would say the smart side is the Chargers. And here's why. The Chiefs don't have their kicker. I understand the Chargers don't have Keenan Allen, but the Chiefs don't have McDuffie, their first-round rookie corner. But more importantly, the Chargers have played the Chiefs incredibly close over the last few years. The Chiefs won last year. They lost to them once and beat them the other time in overtime. They play them well. And so I think the Chiefs deserve to be greater than 4-point favorites at home against every team in the league except the Chargers. I'm not saying the Chargers are the second best team in football. I'm saying the Chargers play the Chiefs better than anybody. They are built to play the Chiefs. They've built that team smartly with the Chiefs in mind. I think Chiefs -4 is a perfect line. All right, next.
All right, well, that makes sense. The Bucks are 2.5. Oh, I'm shit.
You got it?
Yeah, the Bucks are 2.5-point favorites on the road in New Orleans.
All right, I just think this line's exactly right. I think that New Orleans has played the Bucks incredibly tough since Brady's gotten there. I understand that they've won 3 out of 4. I also know that some of those came with Drew Brees. They all came with Sean Payton. And New Orleans didn't look great this weekend. But you don't want to, if it were New Orleans +3, that's an obvious New Orleans bet. That 3.5, certainly. At 2.5, I think the odds makers got this exactly right. What do I expect? I expect the Bucks to win by about 3 points. And so I think they got this exactly right. I don't think New Orleans is going to win the game, but I wouldn't be shocked if they did. I think the line's just right. We can move on. Next.
All right, the Rams are 10.5-point favorites at home against the Falcons.
Yeah, I think it's exactly right. I think the Rams, with the extra rest, after looking so terribly this past weekend, I think they are going to be up 14, 17 points throughout the majority of the second half. And there's the strong potential, as always with Atlanta, for a backdoor cover to come get you. You're up by 17. All of a sudden, the Falcons score a garbage time touchdown. Marcus Mariota runs it in. Now they're winning by 10. Game over. Your 10.5 doesn't cover. I think that's the exact right line. I expect the Rams to win easily, but I wouldn't bet either side of it. The 5 games I would bet are the Vikings at the Eagles, the Cardinals at Arizona. I'm sorry, the Cardinals at Arizona. The Cardinals at the Raiders, Cincinnati at Dallas, Chicago at Green Bay, and Miami at Baltimore. We'll give you our 5 picks and have our first winning week of the year next on What's Right. All right, welcome back in What's Right with Nick Wright, episode number 69 at Week 2 NFL Gambling Show. So here are our 5 picks. We've told you the 5 games. Let's start with the first one. Damonza, what's the first game? And I'll give you my analysis. These are the 5 picks we are making. We are betting. We are 2-3 on the year. We are 1-0 in the locks. We are undefeated still in Survivor. What's the first game?
Minnesota is 2-point underdogs in Philadelphia.
Love Minnesota +2. So here's the rationale. Philadelphia was very impressive offensively in week 1. Defensively, real question marks. Letting Detroit push them around the way they did.
Allowed a lot of scores.
Letting Detroit score 35 points. Minnesota on the other hand, I think can play offensively better than they did in week 1. It was really just Justin Jefferson.
Right.
Dalvin Cook might be able to run all over Philadelphia. It is one of the weaknesses of doing this on Thursdays is we don't have the weather yet, a real good weather forecast for this game. However, and this is a Monday night game, if I'm not mistaken. So we certainly don't have it. This is a Monday night game, correct? Yeah, it's the late Monday night game this weekend. But assuming there's not a weather disaster, I think Minnesota is going to score 28, 31 points. I don't think Minnesota has as good of a defense as it looked like in week 1 against Green Bay, but they have a far better defense than Detroit. Detroit's defense is a mess. As good as Philly looked, I was still left that game relatively unimpressed with Jalen Hurts' ability to throw the football. So he's going to get out and have some scrambles, and A.J. Brown's going to get his yards. But aside from A.J. Brown, there wasn't much there. And so I think Minnesota wins this game outright. Okay. I think this is a bad matchup for Philly. I think Philly also, it's weird to say this early in the year, but I don't think they necessarily have a huge amount of urgency right now because of the Dak Prescott injury. I think Philadelphia, they got some great news this week, which is that Dallas' season essentially ended. And I know Washington and the Commanders won, but Philly knows this is their division to be had even if they lose this game. I think Minnesota, I would take Minnesota straight up. I'm certainly taking them plus 2 points. This is probably my second favorite bet of the weekend is Minnesota plus 2. What's next?
Okay. Arizona is 5.5-point road dogs and against Las Vegas or in Las Vegas.
Yeah. Arizona plus the points. This to me is a no-brainer. I'd like it at 6. If you are going to bet this, wait, because if the line moves against you and it goes down to 5, that doesn't cost you anything. The difference between 5 and 5.5 is almost negligible. The difference between 5.5 and 6 matters. So wait and see if it moves up to 6, and then make the bet. But at 5, even at 5.5, I like it a lot. So why? So Arizona right now, while I wasn't high on them going into the year, I don't think they're a playoff team. They are right now a little undervalued because the Chiefs embarrassed them. They just got destroyed. And yes, they're traveling, but the Phoenix to Las Vegas, they were at home, and now they're going a short trip to Vegas. So the travel edge is negligible, if existing at all. And the Raiders, listen, I'm not a Cliff Kingsbury guy. I'm not going to say he has a coaching edge on anybody. But Josh McDaniels' first game with the Raiders wasn't exactly a clean operation. Derek Carr had, I think, tied his career high in interceptions, fumbled the ball late. There's a lot not to like about what you saw from the Raiders. Now, do I expect the Raiders to win the game? I do. Do I expect them to win the game by a touchdown? I don't. Do I think this is a game that comes down to the fourth quarter? Absolutely. Do I think this is a game that has lead changes in the fourth quarter? Possibly. Do I think this is most likely a 3 or a 4-point Raiders win? Yeah. So Arizona getting 5.5 points is the right side of the bet. Arizona and the Raiders are somewhat equivalent teams. So this line probably should be the Raiders by 3. It is the Raiders by 5.5 purely because Arizona looked so bad against the team that actually is the best team in football, the Chiefs. So you're getting 2.5 free points of value there. Arizona plus the 5.5. Damonza's looking at me with a quizzical look. This is the tricky thing. Even if, you were like, wait, so you think the Raiders are going to win, but you're picking the Cardinals? Those 5.5 points are so valuable. If the Raiders win by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I win the bet. And there are a lot of, there's 21-20, 21-17, 27-24, 28-24. A lot of the 27-23. I think I said that one already. There's a lot of the likely range of outcome scores fall in that exact window. I like Arizona plus the points. Next.
Okay. So accidentally scrolled here.
Yeah, you're fine.
We got Cincinnati is favored by 7 in Dallas.
Yeah, listen, road underdogs, you always got to be careful. Or road favorites, you always got to be careful. But I don't know why this line isn't 10.5. It's Cincinnati's the play. Dallas right now is the worst offense in football. Cincinnati scored 20 points in regulation in a game where they turned the ball over 5 times.
Right.
I understand they didn't deal well with TJ Watt, and so you might be like, they're not going to deal well with Micah Parsons. Maybe, or maybe they will simply double team Micah Parsons every play of the game and say Dallas can't beat us otherwise.
I actually want to put money in on this bet. I like this bet a lot.
Cincinnati -7?
Yeah.
With Dallas starting Cooper Rush?
100%.
Worst quarterback in the league right now. And the only offense that didn't score a touchdown week 1, and that was with Dak Prescott. Cincinnati is going to win this game by multiple scores.
Yeah.
And I think there is an underreaction to how bad Cooper Rush is going to be.
Okay.
I think that people are not recognizing that Dallas, for all its warts, Dak Prescott's a good player. And the offense still, he couldn't deal with the bad offensive line and lack of receivers. With Gallup still hurt, no Amari Cooper this year, all of that. Now there's some Cooper Rush to do it. If they don't score a defensive touchdown, I do not see how Dallas gets more than 14 points. So can Cincinnati get 21? They got 20 last week in a game with 5 turnovers against a better defense than Dallas is in Pittsburgh. So I don't love the 5-quarter component. I don't love backing teams, especially teams that are traveling, that just played not only an overtime game, but an overtime game that went down to the final moment. It's basically playing a 5-quarter game. Right. I don't love that. Flip side, Dallas played Sunday night, so the rest is almost negligible. I think Cincinnati blows them out.
Yeah.
I think that this is Dallas is staring 1-5 in the face. Cooper Rush was an undrafted 2-star player who has 1 career start. That offensive line is banged up. Cincinnati -7. It goes against a lot of the rules. Road favorites of that much, but I love it. Anyway, Cincinnati -7's to play. Next.
All right, Green Bay is favored by 10 at home against Chicago.
Okay. This is the week that Rodgers reminds everybody when things are going well, he looks as good as any player in league history.
So you think last week was a fluke?
I don't think it was a fluke. I think there were some issues last week that show you why, when things get a little harried in the playoffs, Rodgers hasn't come through. I think is the way he abandoned the rookie wide receiver. I think there were some parts of that game that are concerning long term for the Packers, but not this week. Pardon me, against the Bears. Justin Fields completed 8 passes. I know it was in a monsoon. Green Bay blows out Chicago. That's what they do. Chicago goes to Green Bay and they get their asses kicked. And I think Rodgers, coming off an awful game, is going to try to run it up.
Probably sent his receivers to training camp over the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, this honestly feels like 31-7, 31-10, 28-13, maybe. Like Green Bay, laying 10 points is usually not the sharp side, but Chicago goes to Green Bay, and Chicago leaves getting blown out. That's what happens. The Bears have $60 million of dead money. They don't even have a full roster. The offensive line stinks. The receivers stink. The Packers are blowing them out. Next and last one.
We got Baltimore is favored by 3.5 at home against Miami.
This is an insane line. Utterly insane. They're 3.5 point. When I first saw this line, I thought Baltimore was on the road. I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Baltimore being just a 3.5 point. I understand Ronnie Stanley's dinged up. The offensive line's dinged up. I get it. But Vegas or the general public has not caught up to how good Baltimore is. They're way overvaluing Miami.
Patriots.
I'm sorry?
We're hyping up the Patriots a little bit too much, but yeah. I don't think anybody's hyping up the Patriots.
No, they're
right
way over. Yeah, right. They're overvaluing Miami's win against the Patriots, which, by the way, was not overly impressive.
Right.
I mean, They win by 2 scores, but one of the scores on a fumble 6, the strip sack touchdown. Baltimore is a great team, particularly in the regular season. Baltimore should be at least 6-point favorites at home against everyone in football but like 5 teams. To only be 3.5-point favorites, I'm going to keep riding Baltimore until the market catches up to how good they are. So Baltimore minus 3.5, I would include this at Baltimore minus 6.5. I love the Ravens this week. So there are the 5 picks. I could give more analysis on it, but Miami's not that good. Baltimore just had an easy victory. Lamar looked great throwing the football. The adjustment for Miami's defense going from Mac Jones that they're playing to Lamar Jackson is startling. So Baltimore minus 3.5, Cincinnati minus 7, Green Bay minus 10, Arizona plus 5.5, Minnesota plus 2. Those are the 5 picks of the week. Take a quick break, come back, give you the lock, tell you if we have any teasers or parlays for the week, give you our survivor pick of the week, and Damonza's got an offer for me. That's all next as we wrap up the show. All right, welcome back in. Final segment. I just gave you my 5 picks of the week. If you're just joining us, which I don't think that actually ever happens in podcasts, I don't think anyone's like, I'm just going to skip to the end. I think they're listening throughout. But the 5 picks are Minnesota plus 2, Arizona plus 5.5, Cincinnati minus 7, Green Bay minus 10, and Baltimore minus 3.5. Last week, the lock was Baltimore. This week, the lock is Baltimore. We call it the right move, evidently. That's my lock. I don't know why we're still using that picture of me. I'm overweight and bald, but that's fine. Doesn't matter. Damonza looks great. I look terrible. That's fine. Don't worry about it. Listen, the public in Vegas aren't properly pricing the Ravens, and we're going to hammer them until they do. There is right now at a little area of value, and it's surrounding the greater DMV area of the country. And we are swirling it. We're swirling around it. We're circling it, and we're seizing the advantage. We're taking the opportunity. Baltimore minus 3.5. You listen, I was asked if we have any teasers or exotics or parlays. I don't, but what I would tell you is, and I'll look at it real quick, I am interested in an alternate line on Baltimore. Let me go ahead and click here. More wagers, alternate spread right now. Baltimore minus 6.5 is plus 134. Or you can get Baltimore minus 3.5 at minus 110. That's probably not enough value. You want to get real crazy? Baltimore minus 9.5 at plus 200. I don't hate that one.
Okay.
I don't hate that one, but I'm not doing it this week. Once again, we're staying disciplined. We got no teasers or parlays this week. We will at some point. This week, we have no teasers or parlays. We do have a survivor pick for you. Last week, the survivor pick was Baltimore. This week, the survivor pick is Green Bay. You might say you're going to use Green Bay this early. We are going to use Green Bay this early. There's not a game on their schedule that is going to be easier than their home game against the Bears coming off a loss. Survive and advance in Survivor. Green Bay's our survivor pick this week. Damonza, you look like you're plotting something for me.
Yeah, man.
You have an offer for me, my friend?
I got to do my hands like this when I'm giving an offer.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so all 7-point underdogs to win outright.
This picture is so funny. Go ahead.
It's really good.
Uh-huh.
The Atlanta Falcons, Seattle Seahawks, Houston Texans, Chicago Bears, Tennessee Titans, and Dallas Cowboys will all win.
What does a $100 bet pay?
$100 pays $355,000 on Fox Bet. They're about.
Okay. So $100 to win $350,000. $355,000.
I mean, the real number is $354,373, but we're calling it $355,000.
Do you have
taking it?
Do you have a lighter on you?
I don't.
You don't? Good for you.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, like, we could just light $100 on fire. Would that give you more enjoyment? It's the worst bet I've ever heard in my life. Who's coming up with these?
I'll come up with
Hold on. Can I give you the alternate version of that? If you bet, now I don't recommend this bet either, but it's certainly better than what this doofus just suggested. All 6 touchdown favorites just to win. Parlay that. So the Rams, Niners, Broncos, Packers, Bills, Bengals, all to win. That's plus 250.
Okay.
So that's $100 to win $250. Now, I don't think there's enough value. You're only getting 2.5 to 1 on a 6 event, 6 uncorrelated event thing. But that actually has a decent chance coming through.
Right.
My guess is one team there's one team that upsets somebody in that. So I wouldn't bet it. But the idea that we are going to
I
have
was going to say it the other way.
Marcus Mariota go on the road and beat Matt Stafford and the Rams. Geno Smith go on the road and beat the 49ers.
Hey, man.
Davis Mills go on the road to Mile High and beat Mr. Quite Limited Russell Wilson.
Mr. Quite Limited.
Justin Fields go on the road and beat Aaron Rodgers. Ryan Tannehill go on the road and beat Josh Allen. And final piece, Cooper Rush to beat the Bengals and have the Bengals drop to 0-2. It is an impossibility.
That's the only one in there that I've really got doubts on. The other ones, I feel
The
like
other ones are
definitely
not
happen.
happening, buddy.
Okay.
All right, you want to... This guy. It's just unbelievable. I just want to...
I will be betting again. This Dallas Cowboys bet will be my first ever bet.
Your first ever NFL bet?
Yes, 100%. I've never made a bet on the NFL.
Okay. You're in there. So Dallas -7. So let me tell you something. Oh, I mean, sorry.
No,
it's Cincinnati -7.
right.
I said it wrong. My bad. Yeah, and you got to get it in listen,
For that number line changes?
you don't want it to be 7.5.
Yeah.
7. There's a big difference between 7 and 7.5. And my guess is that thing is going to start moving. By kickoff, it might be 8.5. Nobody's betting the Cowboys there. I'll tell you that much. You might say Knicks, and then isn't that a stay away or a be careful? No, man. Not when Cooper Rush is involved. There are certain times in the NFL where you only have a singular opportunity to fade a quarterback. This might be Cooper Rush's grand opening, grand closing. We might not see him again, so we're going to take advantage of it. All right, great gambling show. Good luck to everyone. Gamble responsibly. We'll talk to you guys on Monday. Hey, thanks for watching. Smash or just lightly tap that subscribe button. It all works the same. To get more from the show, and make sure you click. Why don't you want to mash the bell too, guys? Or just, lightly tap the bell to get notified every time new content drops. Check out full episodes of What's Right wherever you get your podcasts, or just hit the link in the description below.